After Lewin passed, the house felt different. The windows let in the same light, the floorboards creaked in familiar places, and the scent of cedar still lingered in the linen closet. But something essential had vanished. His slippers remained by the door for weeks. I couldn't bring myself to move them. Some days I sat on his side of the bed just to remember the weight of him, the way his breath used to steady me in the dark. We had built that house together slowly over decades. Every scratch on the banister, every mismatched tile in the bathroom had a story. But stories lose their shape when there's no one left to tell them to. I started forgetting things, or maybe choosing not to remember. Meals became quiet rituals. I turned on the television for background noise, though I rarely listened. The silence had teeth. My son Mason visited on Sundays, always with a sense of duty more than warmth. "Mom, you shouldn't be here alone," he said one afternoon, watching me refill birdseed at the kitchen window. "It's not safe, and it's not healthy either." I nodded, not because I agreed, but because I didn't have the strength to argue. When he offered for me to move in, it sounded like mercy. "You'll have your own room, your own space, and Eloise will love seeing you every day." His wife, Serena, smiled beside him. Polite, polished, too perfect. "We want you to feel part of the family," she added, placing her hand lightly over mine. I believed her. I sold the house 2 months later, signed the final papers with trembling fingers, and walked away from the life I'd built one brick at a time. At first, it felt like settling in. Serena had arranged fresh towels in the guest bathroom and lit a lavender candle on the nightstand. "So you'll sleep well," she said, with a gentle smile. I wanted to believe it. My room was just off the kitchen, tucked beside the laundry closet. It was quiet most days, except when the washing machine thudded like a restless heartbeat through the wall. I unpacked, slowly folding memories into drawers that weren't mine. My wedding photo stayed on the dresser, flanked by 2 porcelain figurines Lewin once bought me at a county fair. I thought I'd claimed a little corner of the house, but corners can be swept away. The first time I noticed something missing, it was my cookbooks. Gone from the kitchen shelf, boxed up and organized in the garage. "They take up too much counter space," Serena explained, already flipping through a meal kit recipe. "We're streamlining." A week later, the quilt I'd draped over the couch disappeared. Then the small rocking chair Lewin had built for Eloise was pushed out to the patio and left under a tarp. Eloise stopped sitting next to me after dinner. She used to curl up by my side, asking for stories about when her father was a boy. Now she said she had homework or FaceTime. Sometimes she looked through me like I was part of the furniture, unnecessary, unremarkable. The thermostat was next. "Please don't adjust it," Serena said, handing me a blanket. "It's set for efficiency." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Mason was always at work or buried in his phone, and the silence in my room at night had changed. It no longer had teeth. It had shape, intent, a quiet watchfulness that pressed in from the walls. I woke up early that morning, the way I used to when Eloise was little, and birthdays still meant streamers and warm cinnamon rolls. The house was quiet. No footsteps. No whispered surprises. Just the mechanical hum of the fridge and the faint thump of Serena's heels upstairs. I brewed tea and sat by the window watching the sunlight filter through the glass. No card on the table. No call from Mason. I told myself they were busy. That maybe something special was planned later. Around mid-morning, Serena breezed into the kitchen, checking her reflection in the toaster. "We're having a few people over tonight," she said casually. "Nothing fancy. Just friends from the club. Oh, and it would be lovely if you made that apple pie everyone raves about." The request landed like a breadcrumb tossed to a dog, but I nodded. I spent the afternoon in the kitchen, peeling, stirring, rolling dough, with hands that remembered how to make a house feel like home. I even changed clothes before the guests arrived, slipping into a soft navy dress Lewin always liked. A small act of hope, I suppose. At 6, Serena returned, bags in hand. "Oh, you've already started cooking," she said. Her voice dipped in surprise. "Well, I picked up a few things from the gourmet section too. Canapes, little salmon puffs. You know, upscale." I smiled politely. She paused, scanning my dress. "You're a bit formal, don't you think? It's just a casual gathering." Then she handed me a flashlight. "Before people get here, would you mind checking the heater downstairs? Margot's always cold and we don't want her complaining." I nodded again. The basement was cool still. I found the heater and flipped the switch. Then I heard the door above me creaking, then shutting, and the soft, unmistakable click of the lock. At first, I just stood there stunned. The old bulb above the staircase flickered like it was laughing. I climbed a few steps and knocked gently, then louder. "Serena," I called. "I think the door's stuck." Silence. Only the muffled thrum of music filtering down through the floorboards, a party above my head and me below it, forgotten or worse. I sat on the bottom step, my hands trembling. My breath echoed in the small, cool space. The basement had that damp metallic scent of old air. I reached for the pocket of my dress, mostly out of habit, and felt the hard edge of my phone. It buzzed faintly in my palm as I unlocked it. A message from my pharmacy, nothing urgent. But the familiarity of the screen grounded me, reminded me I wasn't powerless. I swiped across the home screen and opened the app I never told anyone about, the security feed. Weeks ago, I'd asked Mason about setting up cameras after my mother's brooch vanished from my dresser. "It's probably just misplaced, Mom," he'd said, half listening. I didn't believe him. That brooch had sat in the same velvet box since the day she died. The earrings Lewin gave me vanished next. A book of savings stamps. Small things too small to report, but too meaningful to forget. My friend Denise from the senior center helped me install the cameras, one in my room, another in the kitchen, and a third in the hallway by the garage. Nothing fancy. Tiny, almost invisible. Just for peace of mind, she'd said. Now, watching the split-screen view, I saw guests beginning to gather upstairs. My pie sat untouched. The laughter above was sharp, detached. Then I heard a woman ask, "Where's your mother-in-law?" And Serena's voice floated back, light and unbothered. "Oh, she's away for the weekend." I turned up the volume on the kitchen feed. At first, all I caught were snippets, wine glasses clinking, the scrape of serving trays, laughter that felt too rehearsed. But then I saw Serena standing too close to a man I hadn't seen in years. Drake Mallory, my financial advisor. I recognized the way he brushed back his hair. Same tailored smile, same easy confidence. I hadn't known he and Serena were close. They moved into the frame near the fridge. Serena poured him a glass of red, her hand grazing his as she passed it. "You're late," she said, voice low and playful. "The meeting ran long," Drake replied. "Where is she downstairs?" Serena grinned. "Think she's checking the heater, locked in tight." "She has no idea. No idea about Pinefield either?" he asked. "None. Jonathan's on board, mostly. We file the guardianship next week." I told him she's slipping, that it's for her safety. My breath caught. Pinefield. That was a care facility, one of the cheaper ones tucked between the highway and an old strip mall. I'd driven past it once. Chain-link fences, no gardens. Drake took a sip. "Power of attorney. Almost done," she said. "He's going to tell her it's just an update to her insurance paperwork. She signs everything he hands her." "And if she doesn't?" Serena shrugged. "Then we document the episodes. She forgot the stove last month. Wandered outside in her nightgown. A few more slips and any judge will sign off on her incompetency." None of it was true. The stove? The nightgown? Lies painted over my life like primer. Then came the final punch. Once that goes through, the house is ours. Title's in Jonathan's name already. Remember, she signed it over after the move. Drake smiled. Then we sell, remodel, maybe a new boat. You've earned it. I gripped the phone tighter, feeling heat rise in my chest. They weren't just stealing my money. They were rewriting the entire history of who I'd been. I don't know what made me open my email. Maybe habit, maybe instinct, maybe desperation clawing for a crack of light. I hadn't checked it in weeks, maybe longer. Most messages were ads or notifications. I nearly closed it. Then I saw her name. Paloma. Buried in my spam folder, the first dated almost 6 years ago. Then another and another, some short, some heartbreakingly long, dozens unopened. The subject lines alone made my throat tighten. I miss you. Please call me. Mom, I never stopped loving you. I clicked the earliest one. Dear Mom, I know you're still angry. I know what I said hurt you. But I want to try again. Rufus and I are married now. He's not perfect, but he's kind. I wish you'd give him a chance not for his sake, but for mine. I need my mother. I still do. Love, Paloma. Tears blurred the screen. I had thought she chose silence. Thought she meant what she screamed that night before she slammed the door. But she hadn't left. Not completely. She had been reaching out the whole time. I opened another dated 4 years ago. Today we found out it's a boy. I wanted you to be the first to know we're naming him Lewin, after Dad. He'll never meet him, but I want him to carry something of him forward. I hope one day you'll meet him too. I choked back a sob. A grandson. I had a grandson named after the man I still whispered to in my dreams. A life I never knew existed because someone made sure I never heard a word of it. Another email. More recent. I work for the state now. Adult Protective Services. I see so many cases of families isolating the elderly, controlling their accounts, manipulating them. I think about you more than you know. I've tried calling. Serena always says you're asleep or traveling. If you ever read this, Mom, I still want you in my life. My hands trembled as I clicked reply. I had no plan. Just her name, a blinking cursor, and the certainty that I hadn't been as alone as they made me believe. I stared at her number for a long time. My fingers hovered over the screen, afraid of the silence that might follow, afraid of the voice that might not sound like I remembered. But more than anything, afraid that too much time had passed. When I finally pressed call, I held my breath like a child hiding underwater. 1 ring, 2, 3, then hello. Her voice was cautious, unfamiliar, and familiar all at once. Paloma, I said barely louder than a whisper. It's me. The silence that followed stretched and trembled. Mom. Her voice broke on the word. Is it really you? It is. I said, trying to hold myself together. I just read your emails. All of them. I'm sorry. I didn't know. They never told me. I could hear her breathing fast and uneven. Then came a sob. I thought you didn't want me anymore. I thought you chose them. No, I said. I never chose this. They locked me in the basement tonight. On my birthday. And I think they've been planning something much worse. I told her everything. The overheard conversation. The forged documents. The missing money. I told her about Drake. About Serena. About Mason's silence. She didn't interrupt. She just listened like she'd been preparing for this moment for years. Stay on the line, she said calmly when I finished. I'm calling the police. I'm calling a lawyer. I'll be there within the hour. I pressed the phone to my ear like it was keeping me alive. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like someone's problem. I felt like someone's mother again. I'm not losing you again, she said. Not now. Not ever. I stayed near the bottom of the stairs, phone still warm in my hand. My ears strained to catch the shifting rhythm of the house above, the music softening voices, thinning footsteps moving toward the front door. The party was ending. Then I heard a sound I wasn't expecting. The soft turn of a key. The door cracked open an inch, then wider. A sliver of light spilled down the steps, and in it stood Eloise. her face pale, her hair pulled back in a rushed bun, oversized sweatshirt hanging off one shoulder. "Grandma," she whispered. I blinked up at her heart, clenching. "I'm here." She stepped into the doorway, eyes wide. I didn't think she meant it. I thought Mom was just being dramatic. But I heard her. I heard her tell Drake you were locked down here. She came down a few steps. Why would she do that to you? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She already knew. I also heard her say you're going to a nursing home. That it's all arranged. Her voice trembled. She told Dad it's better this way. That you're getting confused, but you're not. You're not, are you? No, I said gently. I'm not. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. She stepped closer and took my hand. I won't let them do this. You don't deserve this. I've called Paloma, I said softly. She's coming. With help. Eloise looked relieved, then panicked. You shouldn't be here when they find out. Come on. We have to move now before they realize. She helped me to my feet, steadying my steps, as we climbed together, one hand still wrapped tightly around mine. Eloise helped me up the last stair, her grip firm despite the tremble in her fingers. I paused for just a second outside the kitchen door, listening to the hum of voices in the living room. Serena's laughter rose above the rest, high and hollow. Drake's voice followed, smooth and easy, too practiced. Eloise gave me a nod, and I stepped through the door. The room fell into silence. Serena froze mid-sentence, her wine glass poised in the air. Drake blinked, then recovered with a tight smile. Mason slouched on the couch, looked as though someone had dumped cold water down his back. "Mom," he said, standing up too quickly. "What are you?" "I was in the basement," I said evenly. "Where your wife left me." "On my birthday." Serena scoffed too quickly. "That's ridiculous. You must have wandered down there," and I held up my phone and tapped the screen. The audio filled the room, her voice clear as glass, saying I'd been locked away because I'd spoil the evening. Drake's voice followed. Speaking of guardianship, Pinefield forged signatures. People turned. Someone gasped. I didn't look around. Serena stepped forward, her smile twitching. This is taken out of context. It's edited. You're confused." "I'm not confused," I said, and opened the next file, an image of a document bearing my name in crooked, blocky handwriting. "This is your forgery, Serena." "And Drake, you knew it." Drake's face shifted. For the first time, no smoothness, no smile. Mason opened his mouth, but Eloise spoke first. "She's telling the truth. I heard it. All of it." The room tilted. I saw it in their eyes. The shift. The recognition. Mason looked between us, his voice catching. "She called Paloma." I nodded. "She's on her way," I said. "With the police and a lawyer?" The knock came minutes later, sharp, official, impossible to ignore. No one moved at first. Serena stood rigid near the mantel, her face pale, mouth drawn into a tight line. Mason looked like he'd aged 10 years in 5 minutes. Drake glanced toward the back door, calculating. Eloise opened it before anyone else could. Paloma stood there, shoulders squared, her badge visible on the lanyard around her neck. Behind her, a police officer and a man in a tailored gray suit stepped into the foyer. Paloma's eyes found mine immediately. And in that look, solid, steady, familiar, I felt the years between us dissolve. "Mrs. Mercer," the officer asked, stepping forward. "Are you safe right now?" "I am now," I said. Serena tried to speak, but Paloma cut her off. "We have documented evidence of unlawful confinement, financial manipulation, and forged legal documents. You'll want to speak with your attorney before you say anything." Drake shifted back, palms raised. "This is all a misunderstanding. The family's just going through a difficult transition." The man in the suit stepped forward. "Adam Kessler, counsel for Ms. Mercer. We've filed emergency motions to freeze access to her accounts and initiate a formal investigation into property transfers." Since the title of the house was acquired under questionable circumstances involving forged consent, we're preparing to challenge the deed. That house is in my name, Mason said. Quietly. For now, Adam replied. But fraud voids ownership. Serena's voice broke. You're siding with her. With this delusion, Eloise stood beside me. I'm siding with the truth. Paloma moved past the others and wrapped her arms around me. You're coming home, Mom. This ends here. Mason didn't speak. He just sat down, head in his hands, as the officer led Drake outside, and Serena sank into the couch, speechless. I turned to Eloise, who hadn't let go of my hand. Let's pack a few things, I said. I don't want to stay another night in this house. She nodded. I already started. Epilogue. The porch in Eugene. The porch at Paloma's house faces west. In the evenings, the light spills over the hills in wide, gentle strokes, like a hand brushing hair back from your face. I sit here most days, with a book in my lap, though I rarely read. It's the stillness I like now. The quiet that doesn't try to erase me. Lewin, my grandson, is 3. He drags his toy truck across the porch floor and narrates every bump as though it's an epic journey. He calls me Grandma Saul, says it like sunlight. He knows nothing of basements or bank accounts or papers signed in my name without consent. He only knows that I braid his hair before naps and sing lullabies that don't rhyme. Paloma works long hours, but when she's home, she cooks with both elbows and all her laughter. She always sets an extra fork on the table, even when it's just the 3 of us. I think it's her way of saying I belong again without needing the words. Eloise comes on Sundays. She brings flowers and school gossip and the occasional apology tucked inside a look. We don't talk about Serena. We talk about books. About how the stars look different from this porch than they did from the patio of that other house. About the feeling of walking out of a place that told you you were nothing and finding out the sky still opened for you. I keep the court papers in a drawer by my bed, not out of bitterness, but proof that I wasn't imagining it, that I wasn't invisible. That silence was never safety but survival until I could speak again. And now I do speak. When Lewin asks for one more story. When Eloise needs to know she's not her mother. When Paloma pauses at the sink and just needs to hear that I'm proud of her. Maybe my legacy isn't the money they tried to take. Maybe it's this porch, these afternoons, this quiet I've earned. Maybe it's the courage to be loud when the world asked me to disappears.